In February 2013, a 2-minute video was released by the Los Angeles Police Department. They released it to the public because they were desperate. They had a missing person, a 21-year-old Canadian student named Elisa Lam, and they had no leads. The video was surveillance footage from an elevator inside the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. It showed Elisa alone in the elevator, pressing multiple floor buttons, stepping in and out, pressing herself against the wall, waving her arms in strange patterns, and at one point, leaning out of the elevator and appearing to speak to someone in the hallway, someone who was not there. Within 48 hours of being posted online, that video had been viewed millions of times. People all over the world were watching it, pausing it, rewinding it, trying to understand what they were seeing, because what that video showed didn't look like a person who was lost or confused or even afraid. It looked like something else entirely, something that is very difficult to explain in rational terms. 2 weeks after that video was filmed, Elisa Lam's body was found inside a water tank on the roof of the Cecil Hotel. She had been there the entire time. This is the true story of the Elisa Lam case, and why, more than a decade later, it still has no satisfying explanation. Elisa Lam was born in 1991 in Hong Kong and grew up in Vancouver, Canada, where her family had immigrated. She was a student at the University of British Columbia, studying arts. She was quiet, thoughtful, and deeply passionate about books and travel. She kept a public Tumblr blog where she wrote about her life, her interests, and her inner world. Reading through her posts, you get a picture of a young woman who was curious, warm, and genuinely excited about experiencing new places. She had a habit of documenting everything, every city she visited, every book she read, every thought that seemed worth keeping. She also wrote openly about her struggles with mental health. She had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression, and she wrote about that honestly. The hard days, the medications, the effort it took sometimes just to get through a week. She was not hiding it. She was living with it as openly as she could. In January 2013, Elisa set out on a solo trip along the west coast of America. She planned to travel from San Diego to Los Angeles to Santa Cruz to San Francisco. She was 21 years old and exploring the world on her own for the first time. In late January, she checked into the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. It was one of the cheapest options in the city. She planned to stay for a few nights before continuing north. She never checked out. To understand this story, you have to understand the Cecil Hotel. The Cecil was built in 1924 in the Skid Row neighborhood of downtown Los Angeles, one of the most troubled urban areas in America. From the very beginning, it attracted a clientele of drifters, transients, and people with nowhere else to go. Over the decades, it developed a reputation that went far beyond ordinary crime or poverty. At least 2 serial killers are known to have stayed at the Cecil Hotel. Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker, lived there for several months in 1985, while carrying out a string of murders across Los Angeles. Jack Unterweger, an Austrian serial killer who targeted sex workers, stayed at the Cecil in 1991, while killing women in the city. The hotel had also been the site of numerous suicides over its history. People had jumped from the windows. People had been found dead in their rooms. The number of deaths that had occurred inside the Cecil Hotel over its nearly 100-year history was extraordinary, even by the standards of a large urban hotel. Staff who worked there for years spoke about the energy of the building, a heaviness, a darkness that was difficult to describe but impossible to ignore. Long-term residents said the same thing. Something about the Cecil Hotel felt fundamentally wrong in a way that went beyond its history. It was the kind of place where bad things didn't just happen, they seemed to be drawn. This is where Elisa Lam checked in, alone, in January 2013. Elisa checked into the Cecil on January 26, 2013. Initially, she was placed in a shared dormitory room, but her roommates complained about her strange behavior, acting erratically, disturbing them at odd hours, and she was moved to a private room. She continued posting on her Tumblr blog during her stay. The posts were cheerful. She wrote about the city, about places she wanted to visit, about books she was reading. Nothing in those posts suggested anything was wrong. She called her parents regularly. They spoke on January 31st. After that, silence. She missed her next scheduled call. Her parents waited. Then they contacted the hotel. Then they contacted the police. A missing persons report was filed on February 1st, 2013. LAPD searched the hotel. They searched the roof. They searched the water tanks. They found nothing. On February 6th, the surveillance footage from the elevator was released to the public. The footage was recorded on the night of January 31st, the last night anyone had contact with Elisa. It begins with Elisa entering the elevator alone. She presses several floor buttons, multiple floors, not just one, and then steps back and waits. The elevator doors do not close. She waits. The doors still do not close. Then she steps out into the hallway and looks both ways as if checking for someone. She steps back in, steps out again, leans out and looks down the hallway with an expression that is difficult to read. Not quite fear, not quite confusion, something in between. She goes back inside the elevator and presses herself into the corner. She raises her hands and begins moving them in slow, flowing patterns, almost like she is performing some kind of gesture. Her fingers move in ways that are hard to categorize. It does not look like someone talking on a phone. It does not look like someone dancing. It looks like communication, like she is speaking to something in a language made of movement. At one point she leans out of the elevator again and appears to speak to someone in the hallway, except the hallway is visibly empty. She gestures, she nods, her lips move. Then she walks out of frame, down the hallway, and disappears. The elevator doors finally close. The elevator moves on its own to several floors, opening and closing its doors, as if responding to the buttons that were never canceled. That is the last recorded footage of Elisa Lam alive. On February 19th, 19 days after she went missing, guests at the Cecil Hotel began complaining about the water. It tasted strange. It was coming out dark. The pressure was low. A maintenance worker was sent to the roof to check the 4 large water tanks that supplied the hotel. He opened the hatch on one of the tanks. Inside, floating in the water that the hotel's guests had been drinking and bathing in for nearly 3 weeks, was the body of Elisa Lam. She was fully clothed. Her belongings, her room key, her clothes, were found floating in the water beside her. The Los Angeles County coroner conducted an autopsy. The official cause of death was ruled accidental drowning. Her bipolar medications were found at levels consistent with her prescription. There was no evidence of foul play, no signs of a struggle, no signs of trauma. Case closed. Accidental death. Except almost nothing about what happened made logical sense. The rooftop of the Cecil Hotel was not accessible to guests. The door leading to the roof was alarmed. Opening it would trigger a loud alert. Hotel staff confirmed that no alarm was triggered that night. The water tanks themselves were large metal containers, roughly 8 feet tall. To get inside one, a person would need to climb a ladder bolted to the outside of the tank, open a heavy hatch at the top and climb in. The hatch, when found, was closed. From the inside, there was no way to close it. So how did Elisa get onto a roof she wasn't supposed to be able to access? How did she climb an 8-foot tank? How did she get inside? And how did the hatch end up closed with her inside? The police had no answer. Then there was the elevator footage. LAPD stated that the elevator was functioning normally, that the doors were staying open because someone, possibly Elisa herself, was holding a button. But observers noted that in the video, Elisa's hands are visible and not pressing anything during the long periods when the doors stay open. The elevator appeared to be responding to commands that no one was giving. And the behavior itself and the hand movements, the gestures to someone invisible, the way she looked down the hallway. Investigators and psychologists offered explanations. A manic episode, a psychotic break triggered by medication, extreme fear of someone following her. All possible, all reasonable on paper. None of them fully accounts for what the video actually looks like when you watch it. The case generated more theories than almost any other mystery of the last 20 years. Some were rational, some were not. The most widely accepted explanation is a mental health crisis, that Elisa, who had a documented history of bipolar disorder, experienced a severe episode that night. In a manic or dissociative state, she may have wandered onto the roof through the alarmed door without triggering it, perhaps. The alarm was faulty or disabled. She may have climbed the tank in a state of altered consciousness. She may have fallen in and been unable to get out. The hatch may have fallen closed on its own. This explanation is possible, but it requires several things to have gone wrong simultaneously, and it does not fully explain the elevator behavior. A second theory involves foul play, that someone else was involved, that Elisa encountered someone in that hotel who harmed her and staged the scene. The Cecil's history made this entirely plausible. But the autopsy found no evidence of assault and no suspect was ever identified. A third group of people, and this group is large, believes the elevator footage shows something that cannot be explained by medicine or crime. The hand movements, the invisible presence, the sense when you watch it that Elisa is not reacting to something in this world. This theory has no name and no proof, but it has never fully gone away either. In the years after Elisa's death, more information came out about the Cecil Hotel and its management at the time. The hotel's security systems had significant gaps. The rooftop alarm had been malfunctioning on multiple occasions in the months before Elisa's death. The water tanks were inspected infrequently. Staff turnover was high. Record-keeping was poor. A documentary series released in 2021 explored the case in depth and revealed that the hotel had a pattern of ignoring safety issues, covering up incidents, and prioritizing its reputation over the well-being of its guests. Former staff members spoke about things they had seen and reported that had been quietly buried. None of this proved what happened to Elisa, but it painted a picture of a building where the conditions for something terrible to happen had been in place for a very long time. The Cecil Hotel has since been converted into affordable housing. It no longer operates as a hotel. The water tanks on the roof have been removed. Elisa Lam was 21 years old. She was a traveler, a reader, a writer. She documented her life online because she wanted to share it with her family, with strangers, with whoever was reading. She was someone who believed the world was worth seeing up close. She went to Los Angeles, alone, and checked into a cheap hotel in a bad neighborhood because that's what young travelers do. She called her parents. She wrote on her blog. She explored the city. She was doing everything right. And then one night, something happened in an elevator on a rooftop, inside a water tank, and that no one has ever been able to fully explain. The official answer is accidental drowning. The case is closed. The hotel is gone. The investigation is over. But the elevator footage still exists. You can still watch it right now, today, on any device. 2 minutes of a young woman alone in a hallway, speaking to someone who isn't there, moving her hands in patterns that don't belong to any known language. And when you watch it, really watch it, from beginning to end, the official explanation will feel like the least satisfying answer you have ever been given. Because some things, when you look at them long enough, stop looking like accidents. They start looking like something else. Something the language of investigation and autopsy, an official report, was never built to describe. Whatever happened to Elisa Lam on the night of January 31st, 2013, she saw it. She was there for all of it. And she took every answer with her into that water tank on the roof of the Cecil Hotel, where it has stayed ever since.